Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang hormat Sri Syed Hamid as Chairman of the Forum, Secretary General of UMNO Barisan Nasional, distinguished members of the government, United Corps, delegates, component parties, Barisan Nasional, of course our overseas UMNO club, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to address such a distinguished and diverse group from around the world, comprising of, I believe, more than 22 political parties from 20 different nations. And we have come to address some of our shared challenges and to discuss how we can find and realize global beneficial solutions. I thank you for taking the time to travel to Malaysia and share your ideas, your thoughts with us. And I'm sure your time here has been as valuable for you as it has been for us. Ladies and gentlemen, the notion of global citizenship is not a new idea, but it's one that is becoming less of a concept, but more of a reality as the world becomes smaller and more interconnected. To me, global citizens are, in essence, individuals who are part of a community and have a sense that they are bigger and a part of a bigger and broader than their own town, state, or even their nation. It is part and parcel of their thought process, their worldview. And they see themselves as being an integral part of a much bigger community. And the idea that whatever they do as individuals will impact the larger global community. They are still intimately connected to those places that make them who they are. But they are also part of a larger human community. As borders and boundaries that once kept us apart crumble under the forces of globalization and new technologies, many of us are becoming global citizens, whether we like it or not. This group and this forum are clear demonstrations of how far globalization has come and how each of us has become a global citizen. The rise of global citizenship, or the notion of being a global citizen, has been a boon to all of us. We are wealthier, we are smarter, we are more productive, and we are definitely more aware of what's happening in any part of the world. Through globalized trade and commerce, the world has more wealth now than ever before in human history. Our global living standards are the highest they've ever been, and therefore it's important for us to continue this trajectory in terms of increasing global trade. Malaysia is one of the countries that's a strong proponent that Doha round should be completed as soon as possible. Through new information technologies, we know more than we've ever known before. The internet has brought every one of us instant access to information and insights that our childhood, ourselves and our parents could never have conceived having access to. The idea that you can be in constant touch with your office, with anyone else, with this idea of global networking has unleashed a great deal more creativity and innovation throughout the world. And even the sense that you can touch the person. I mean, for example, on a personal basis, if you have children overseas, anywhere in the world, it's as good as having your child in your own country. The amount of access you can have, the amount of communication you can have is really unprecedented. We're also now more aware of the rest of the world than ever been before. Many of us have now traveled to the furthest corners of the planet, and we have seen cultures, we have seen things that we could never have imagined before. Of course, this rise of global citizenship has not been without its challenges and unforeseen consequences or unintended consequences. Globalized trade and commerce has tied our economies so closely together that a crisis anywhere is now a crisis everywhere. We've learned this the hard way with the recent global financial crisis. Globalized travel has also meant globalized disease and globalized environmental degradation, which means that what happens when the polar ice recede might mean we might lose the Maldives Islands, for example. The president of Maldives was so concerned that he had to have a meeting underwater, just to underline the global impact in terms of environmental degradation that can impact on small islands and other places as well. Globalized information and communication technologies have also their dark side. Once isolated extremists from around the world have been able to form communities fueled by hate, and misinformation, lies, and hatred have never spread more quickly or been more damaging. Despite these consequences, I strongly believe that globalization and the rise of global citizens have been a net positive, and we must not create new walls to disrupt the ever-strengthening and integration of our global community. The answer to these new global challenges lies in not disrupting our integration. Instead, the answer lies in finding new and innovative global solutions. In this respect, as this is the focus of this forum, I would like to address twin challenges created by globalized information and communications, including the rise of extremist communities and the rampant spread of misinformation. First, on the rise of communities of extremism. This has undoubtedly been the result of globalization. Before the internet and communication networks, extremists were isolated and often marginalized. Unfortunately, with the rise of the web and other communication technologies, these voices of isolated extremists found each other and formed communities that have resulted in rather despicable acts. I do not believe that the answer lies in reversing the forces of globalization. However, what we need is a new and globalized solution. We need to re-isolate extremists. And I have given my thoughts when I addressed the United Nations General Assembly in ASEAN recently, when I called for a global movement of moderates of all faiths. We must capture the center stage. We must not allow the extremists to usurp the center. We must capture the high moral ground. Because moderates tend to be, as a cliche, the silent majority. They tend to be less assertive. They tend to be rather docile. But there is a need now for us, through the media, through internet, and through the voices of individuals and leaders, including leaders of different faiths, to make the voices of the moderates louder and louder, so that we can really ensure that the center is held by the moderates, so that the views of people who are essentially sensible, who are reasonable. Because if extremists hold hostage, you cannot resolve any of the world's problems. The Middle East problem, the Palestinian problem, is a problem because it's held hostage by the extremists. But it's a problem that must be resolved. We must resolve the Palestinian problem during our time. The world owes it. But if we do not allow, if we allow extremists to dictate the outcome of such issues, then those issues will be forever and ever unresolved. So I basically would like to call on moderates around the world, across faith. I keep on saying the problem is not between Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Confucianism. The problem lies between extremists and moderates of each faith. So if all of us get together of different faith, the moderates, the sensible thinking, the wise ones get together, we will make the world a better place. This must be. Second, on the spread of misinformation, hatred through new communication channel, I would like to say that Malaysia's position is that we support press freedom and responsible press. Without free media, the world would not be as integrated as it is today. The answer does not lie in restricting freedoms or rolling back globalization in any way. That would be counterproductive and, quite frankly, futile exercise. And banning newspapers and things like that would be essentially quite a futile exercise. But what we need to do is to ensure that the media carries and amplify voices of reason, voices of people who are sensible. Such voices must be carried and conveyed in a much more assertive manner. And we must make the responsible voices louder than the irresponsible ones. This is not to say that we cannot have laws. Certainly we need laws. We have laws relating to defamation. We have laws relating to people who incite. Because when you manage societies like a Malaysian society, which is essentially a very pluralistic society, and despite the fact that we are a very pluralistic society, Malaysia has come a long way. In fact, sometimes when I reflect on this, I think it's like a small miracle that we are what we are today, in spite of the challenges that we have faced over so many years. I've just come back from ASEM, and this is not, to make a disparaging remark about my host country at that time, but Belgium as a country, you only have two groups, one who speak French, the other who speak Dutch, but for more than 6 months, they cannot form a federal